Santa Who by Gail Gibbons. Santa Claus, he looks so kind and jolly, but the legend of this famous gift giver began long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years before people thought of him as a round man dressed in a fur-trimmed suit. According to the Bible, the first Christmas gifts were given about 2,000 years ago, when 3 wise men saw a star shining brightly in the eastern sky. They believed it was a sign that a special child had been born. The wise men followed the star until it came to rest over a stable in the city of Bethlehem. There they offered the baby Jesus gifts of gold and sweet-smelling frankincense and myrrh. Gold for a great king, frankincense for a holy man, and myrrh for a miraculous healer. Jesus came to be called the Christ child from Christos, a Greek word that means anointed or savior. The original Santa Claus is thought to have been Saint Nicholas, who lived about 1700 years ago. He was the Catholic bishop of Myra in the land now called Turkey, and he was known for his love of children and for his secret gifts to the poor. Over time, many stories were told about this great man. Some believe that he flew through the skies looking for people who needed his help. When surprise gifts were given at celebrations and festivals, people began to say that they were really from Nicholas. After he died on December 6th in the year 343, many people began to think of Nicholas as their special protector. Later, the Greek Orthodox Church made him a saint. December 6th became a special gift-giving holiday called the Feast of St. Nicholas. Nicholas was pictured riding a white horse, bearing gifts and holding a sturdy crook in his hand. He was dressed in the bishop's clothes, a long red cape falling from his shoulder. In one story about St. Nicholas, a man had 3 daughters and no money to provide each a dowry, the gift of a bride's family presents to the bride and groom when they marry. This was a terrible misfortune, but then St. Nicholas, the secret gift giver, dropped 3 bags of gold down their chimney. Soon all 3 daughters were happily married. And the legend began that gifts found on St. Nicholas Day had come down the chimney. As time passed, the spirit of St. Nicholas the gift giver took on many forms. The Dutch word for saint is Sinter, and the shortened name for Nicholas is Klees. In Holland, children called the saint Sinterklaas. On the eve of December 6th, they would place their shoes or stockings by the fireplace, along with carrots, sugar, or hay for St. Nicholas's donkey. The next morning, the offerings would be gone and gifts would be left in their place. About 5 centuries ago, some religious leaders declared that it was wrong to worship saints or celebrate their holidays. For them, December 6th was not a proper day for gift giving. Not everyone agreed, but that's when some people began exchanging gifts on Christmas, a name that comes from the Old English Christ's Mass, or Christ's Mass. Since the Bible doesn't give a birth date for Jesus, early religious leaders had chosen December 25th. That was around the time of the winter solstice, when festivals were held to mark the passing of winter and the coming of longer days and shorter nights. The festivals changed into the celebration of Jesus' birthday. In many countries, the Christ child himself was the symbol of Christmas giving. German children said it was Christkindl who brought them gifts called Christ bundles. In Spain, he was called Niño Jesus. In France, he was called Petit Noel, and in Italy, Gesù Bambino. In England, children received gifts from Father Christmas. The origins of this stern figure date to ancient Rome, where a Roman god named Saturn was was said to watch over the winter festivals. The Romans brought him to England long ago when it was part of the Roman Empire. As the winter festivals became celebrations of the birth of Christ, the image of Saturn slowly changed into that of Father Christmas. In Northern Europe, little elves with long white whiskers were believed to be gift givers. In Sweden, they were called jultomar. In Denmark and Norway, they were called julnisser. On Christmas Eve, children put out bowls of rice pudding for the elves. Gifts always appeared by morning. In Italy, there are many stories about an old woman named Befana who gave gifts at Christmas. In one, she got lost bringing gifts to the Christ child. Every year after that, she left gifts for other children, hoping she might find the Christ child at last. In Russia, children believe that another old woman called Babushka left gifts because she felt so guilty for steering the wise men in the wrong direction on their trip to Bethlehem. In 1624, the Dutch sent a fleet of ships to the New World of the Americas. The Dutch established a colony called New Amsterdam, and with them they brought their belief in Sinterklaas. England captured the Dutch city in 1664 and renamed it New York. The English children found Sinterklaas far more appealing than Father Christmas, so they began the custom of celebrating Christmas with a gift giver who looked more and more like Sinterklaas. In 1809, Washington Irving, the famous author of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, published a humorous book called Knickerbocker's History of New York. His description of the way the Dutch celebrated St. Nicholas Day was particularly festive. He wrote of stockings hung at the chimney being miraculously filled by the good St. Nicholas, the great giver of gifts, especially to children. Washington Irving pictured St. Nicholas as a pipe-smoking man who loved fun and rode across rooftops in a horse-drawn wagon piled with gifts. His book was read by many people, and it influenced their image of St. Nicholas. One man who read Washington Irving's book was Clement Clark Moore. On Christmas Eve, 1822, he was leaving to buy the Christmas turkey when his children begged, "Bring us a Christmas surprise." As his sleigh streaked through the snowy streets, he had a wonderful idea. He would fulfill his children's wish with a poem about St. Nicholas. That night, Clement Clark Moore gathered his children around and began reading "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse." A Dutch handyman who worked for the Moore family was the inspiration for St. Nicholas. When the saint appeared in the poem, he was described as dressed in all fur from his head to his foot, and as chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. Earlier pictures had shown St. Nicholas with only one reindeer. Clement Clark Moore gave him 8. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. The poem, called An Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas, was printed in a newspaper in 1823. In 1848, it was published as the text in an illustrated book. Many other versions followed, and by 1860, Clement Clark Moore's Christmas Surprise was one of the most famous poems ever written. More and more people were celebrating the merriment of Christmas. Because of this, between 1836 and 1890, December 25th became a legal holiday in all the United States and its territories, and the old Dutch name Sinterklaas became Santa Claus. No one added more to the image of Santa Claus than a cartoonist named Thomas Nast. In 1863, he drew a picture of Santa Claus for Harper's Weekly magazine. Each year, he drew Santa again, changing the details little by little. In 1886, Nast's image of Santa Claus had become that of the round, jolly man whom we're so familiar with today. Thomas Nast was also the first illustrator to draw Santa in his workshop at the North Pole, where he was shown answering stacks of letters from children. As time went by, more and more characters joined in the Santa Claus legend. Elves are shown helping Santa make toys, and there's often a Mrs. Claus who is just as plump and jolly as her husband. At Christmas time, Santa's everywhere. He stands on street corners ringing bells to collect money for the needy. He's found in stores and malls listening as children read their Christmas lists. He appears on Christmas cards, in movies, on wrapping paper, and in songs. Over the years, many cultures have added to our image of Santa Claus. What a jolly and joyous gift giver he has become. Ho, ho, ho.